I was having coffee on my apartment balcony when the mail arrived. Among the usual bills and advertisements, there was an elegant cream envelope with my name written in calligraphy. My heart jumped when I recognized my brother Marcus's return address. After months of hearing about wedding plans, his invitation had finally arrived. I carefully opened the expensive paper, excitement bubbling inside me as I read the beautiful words inviting me to witness his marriage to Amanda. But what I read next made my hands shake. Before I tell you what happened, let me know where you are watching from and hit that like button. Trust me, you will want to stick around to hear how this family drama unfolded, because what my brother asked me to do was absolutely unthinkable. Growing up, Marcus was more than just my older brother. He was my protector, my best friend, and honestly, my hero. Being 3 years older, he always made sure I was okay, especially after our parents divorced when I was 12. While other kids had both parents to rely on, Marcus and I only had each other. Our mom worked double shifts at the hospital, and our dad moved across the country for a job, leaving us to figure things out on our own most of the time. When Marcus left for college at 18, I thought my world would fall apart. But he never forgot about me. Every Sunday at exactly 7 in the evening, my phone would ring, and we would talk for hours about everything and nothing. When I struggled with money for school supplies, he sent whatever he could from his part-time job earnings. When I felt overwhelmed by responsibilities that no 15-year-old should have, he reminded me how strong I was and that things would get better. I learned to be independent early, working at a local diner after school and weekends to help with household expenses and save for college. Marcus was so proud when I got accepted to State University with a partial scholarship. He drove 8 hours just to help me move into my dorm, bringing homemade cookies our mom had baked and a care package filled with everything I might need. Even though we lived in different cities, our bond remained unbreakable. He was the person I called when I aced an exam, when I had my heart broken for the first time, and when I landed my first real job after graduation. 8 months ago, Marcus video called me with the biggest smile I had ever seen on his face. He was practically glowing as he introduced me to Amanda, his girlfriend, who appeared on the screen beside him. She was stunning in that effortless way some people are, with perfectly styled blonde hair and clothes that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Amanda was 26, just 2 years younger than Marcus, and came from what she casually mentioned was a well-established family in Connecticut. Her father owned several businesses, and her mother was involved in various charity organizations. During our first conversation, I tried my best to be welcoming and friendly. I asked about her job in marketing, her hobbies, and how she and Marcus had met at a professional networking event downtown. However, something felt off about her responses. They were polite but distant, like she was checking items off a list rather than having a genuine conversation with her boyfriend's sister. When Marcus talked about our childhood memories or our family traditions, I noticed Amanda's smile became strained, and she would quickly change the subject to something else. Over the following months, I met Amanda a few more times when she visited Marcus's city. Each interaction left me feeling slightly uncomfortable, though I could not pinpoint exactly why. She made subtle comments about Marcus's apartment being smaller than she expected, questioned why he chose to live in that particular neighborhood, and seemed surprised that he shopped at regular grocery stores instead of the upscale markets she preferred. When Marcus showed her pictures from our family gatherings, she would nod politely, but never ask questions or show genuine interest in getting to know our history. I started to notice changes in Marcus too. He began mentioning wanting to upgrade his lifestyle, talking about moving to a better part of town and expressing interest in expensive restaurants and activities he had never cared about before. When I gently asked if Amanda was influencing these changes, he brushed off my concerns, insisting he was simply growing and evolving as a person. He wanted to provide the kind of life Amanda deserved, he said, and there was nothing wrong with having higher standards. 6 months into their relationship, Marcus called with news that made my heart soar. He was going to propose to Amanda during a weekend trip to the mountains. He had been saving for months to buy her the perfect ring and had planned an elaborate surprise involving a sunset picnic at their favorite hiking spot. I was thrilled for him, seeing how happy he was and how much he clearly loved her. When he called me the day after the proposal, practically shouting that she had said yes, I cried tears of joy right along with him. The wedding planning began immediately. Amanda had very specific visions for their special day, which would take place at an exclusive resort in Napa Valley. The venue was breathtaking, with vineyards stretching as far as the eye could see, and a reputation for hosting only the most elegant celebrations. Marcus sent me pictures of the location, the menu options, and the flower arrangements Amanda had chosen. Everything looked absolutely magical, like something out of a fairy tale. I immediately started putting aside money for the trip. The flight to California would cost more than I usually spent in a month, and I knew I would need a beautiful dress for such a fancy venue. I picked up extra shifts at work, skipped dinners out with friends, and even sold some of my belongings to build up my travel fund. I was determined to be there for Marcus's most important day and to show Amanda that I supported their happiness, despite my lingering doubts about her intentions. Shopping for a wedding gift proved to be another challenge. I wanted to find something meaningful that would show how much I cared about Marcus and welcomed Amanda into our family. After weeks of searching, I found a beautiful handcrafted picture frame with intricate designs that could hold their wedding photo. It was more expensive than I could comfortably afford, but I knew it would be perfect for their home and would last for decades as a symbol of their love. As the wedding date approached, my excitement grew stronger each day. I imagined seeing Marcus in his tuxedo, witnessing the moment he and Amanda exchanged vows, and celebrating with their friends and family late into the evening. I had already requested time off from work, booked my flights, and started looking at dress options online. This was going to be the most special event I had attended in years, and I could not wait to be part of Marcus's joy. The wedding invitation arrived on a Tuesday morning in April, 3 months before the ceremony date. The envelope itself was a work of art made from thick cream-colored paper with my name written in flowing calligraphy that must have cost a fortune. Inside the invitation was even more impressive, with gold embossing and elegant script that announced the marriage of Marcus and Amanda at the prestigious Meadowbrook Resort. The details were printed on the heavy cardstock, and everything about it screamed luxury and sophistication. But as I read through the information more carefully, I noticed a line of smaller text at the bottom that made me pause. It read, "Wedding party attire provided. Please RSVP with sizes. Personal clothing not permitted at venue." I stared at those words for several minutes, reading them over and over again, trying to make sense of what they meant. I had never heard of a wedding where guests could not choose their own outfits. It seemed unusual, but I reasoned that maybe it was some new trend among wealthy families or a specific requirement of the upscale venue. Confused and wanting clarification, I immediately called Marcus. The phone rang several times before going to voicemail, which was strange because he usually answered my calls right away. I left a message asking him to call me back about the invitation details, trying to keep my tone light and curious rather than concerned. Hours passed with no response, which made me feel increasingly uneasy. Marcus and I talked regularly, and it was unlike him to ignore my calls, especially about something as important as his wedding. When I tried calling again that evening, Amanda answered Marcus's phone instead of him. Her voice was cheerful but businesslike as she explained that Marcus was in meetings all day and had asked her to handle wedding-related questions. When I mentioned the clothing requirement, she laughed as if it were the most natural thing in the world. She explained that they had hired a professional stylist to ensure everyone looked perfectly coordinated for the photographs. According to Amanda, this was becoming increasingly common at high-end weddings because it created a more polished and cohesive look for the professional photography and videography they had planned. Amanda went on to describe how they wanted their wedding album to be absolutely flawless, like something that could be featured in luxury wedding magazines. Having everyone dressed in complementary colors and styles would eliminate any visual distractions and ensure that every photo would be beautiful enough to display in their future home. She made it sound reasonable and thoughtful, like they were simply trying to create the most beautiful memories possible for their special day. However, something in her tone made me uncomfortable. There was an underlying assumption that my natural clothing choices would somehow be inappropriate or inadequate for their celebration. She spoke about coordination and polish as if these were things I could not achieve on my own, which felt condescending even though her words were technically polite. When I asked if there was any flexibility in the policy, she firmly but sweetly explained that everyone had already agreed to participate and it would be unfair to make exceptions. After our conversation ended, I felt a growing sense of unease. This was not just about wearing a specific color or style. This felt like control over something much more personal than clothing choices. I had always prided myself on having good taste and knowing how to dress appropriately for different occasions. The implication that I needed someone else to choose my outfit felt insulting, even though I tried to convince myself that Amanda meant well. 2 days later, Marcus finally called me back. I could hear the stress in his voice as he apologized for not responding sooner. When I brought up the clothing policy, he sighed heavily and admitted that it was Amanda's idea. She wanted everything to be perfect, he explained, and having a cohesive look was important to her vision for their wedding day. He assured me that it was not personal, and that everyone was being asked to participate in the same way. I pressed Marcus for more details, asking if this meant Amanda would be choosing outfits for all the guests or just the immediate family members. He hesitated before explaining that the professional stylist would be handling selections for the closest family and friends, while other guests would receive more general guidelines for their attire. Learning that I was in the category of people whose clothing needed professional oversight rather than simple guidelines made me feel even worse about the situation. Marcus promised me that he would talk to Amanda about being more flexible with the requirements. He said he would explain that I was perfectly capable of choosing appropriate attire and that the policy was making me uncomfortable. However, his tone suggested that he was not optimistic about changing Amanda's mind. He sounded torn between wanting to make me happy and not wanting to upset his fiancée, so close to their wedding day. A week passed before Amanda contacted me directly to set up an appointment with the stylist. She had arranged for me to meet with a woman named Sarah at an upscale boutique in Manhattan, about an hour from where I lived. The appointment was scheduled for the following Saturday afternoon, and Amanda insisted that it would be fun and that I would love the experience of having a professional help me choose the perfect outfit. The boutique was located in an area of the city where I rarely shopped, filled with designer stores and restaurants that catered to people with much more money than I had ever possessed. Walking into the clothing store felt intimidating with its pristine white walls, minimalist displays, and prices that were not even visible on most items. Sarah the stylist greeted me warmly and led me to a private dressing area that was larger than my bedroom at home. Sarah had already pulled several outfit options based on the measurements Amanda had somehow obtained, probably from Marcus. As she showed me each piece, I realized that everything had been chosen to create a specific image that bore no resemblance to my personal style. The clothes were beautiful, but completely foreign to my usual preferences. They were all in muted, sophisticated colors and featured classic cuts that were elegant but conservative in a way that felt restrictive. When I asked about the price of the outfits, Sarah casually mentioned that Amanda was covering all expenses as part of the wedding preparations. She said this as if it were a generous gift, but it made me feel like a charity case rather than a beloved family member. As Sarah continued showing me options and making suggestions about accessories and shoes, I began to understand that this was not about coordination or photography. This was about transforming me into someone Amanda considered acceptable for her wedding. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Amanda was not trying to help me look my best. She was trying to change who I was because she did not think I was good enough as I was. Every suggestion Sarah made, every outfit she recommended, was designed to make me look like someone from Amanda's social circle rather than Marcus's sister. The stylist even mentioned that Amanda had provided notes about the kind of sophisticated, refined look they were aiming for, as if my natural appearance fell short of those standards. Leaving the boutique that afternoon, I felt a mixture of anger and hurt that I had never experienced before. The entire appointment had been about erasing parts of my identity that Amanda found unacceptable. It was not about making sure I looked appropriate for a formal wedding. It was about making sure I looked like the kind of person she wanted in her family photos and social circle. I decided to visit Marcus at his apartment that evening, hoping to talk through what had happened and maybe get him to understand how hurtful the whole experience had been. When I arrived, I could hear voices coming from inside before I knocked on the door. Amanda was there, and she was on the phone with someone speaking in a tone that was much more animated than her usual controlled demeanor. As I stood outside the door waiting for an appropriate moment to knock, I heard Amanda say something that made my blood run cold. She was talking to her mother, updating her on the wedding preparations and specifically discussing the arrangements she had made for Marcus's family members. "Do not worry, Mom," she said with a laugh. "I have handled the situation. His family will not embarrass us at the wedding. I have taken care of everything." I pressed closer to the door, straining to hear more of the conversation. Amanda continued explaining how she had researched the backgrounds of all of Marcus's close family members and friends to identify potential issues that might reflect poorly on their celebration. She spoke about me specifically mentioning that she had created a comprehensive plan to address what she called my style challenges and presentation issues. The conversation continued with Amanda, detailing the various adjustments she had arranged. Beyond the stylist appointment I had just endured, she had also planned to have my hair and makeup done by professionals she had hired. She had even prepared talking points that she wanted to share with me about appropriate conversation topics and social etiquette for the upscale environment of the wedding venue. She was treating me like a project that needed to be managed rather than a person who deserved respect. Hearing Amanda discuss me as if I were a problem to be solved rather than Marcus's sister made me feel sick to my stomach. She spoke about wanting to help Marcus move up in the world and ensuring that his past did not hold back his future. According to her, everything about our family background was something that needed to be hidden or improved upon if Marcus was going to succeed in her social circles. When Amanda finished her phone call, I knocked on the door trying to compose myself and decide how to address what I had overheard. She opened the door with her usual polite smile, greeting me as if nothing had happened. Marcus was in the kitchen preparing dinner, and he called out a happy greeting when he heard my voice. The normalcy of the scene felt surreal, given what I had just learned about Amanda's true feelings and intentions. I asked Amanda if we could speak privately for a moment, and she agreed, suggesting we sit on the balcony while Marcus finished cooking. Once we were alone, I confronted her directly about the conversation I had overheard. Instead of denying what she had said or apologizing for her words, Amanda remained completely calm and matter-of-fact about her position. She explained that she loved Marcus and wanted the best possible life for him, which meant helping him integrate into social and professional circles that could benefit his career and future opportunities. According to Amanda, there was nothing wrong with wanting to present the best possible image, and she was simply being practical about the realities of social expectations in her world. Amanda then made an offer that left me speechless. She said that since I had overheard her conversation anyway, she might as well be completely honest about her intentions. She offered to pay for a complete makeover for me, not just for the wedding, but as a permanent change that could benefit me in my own career and social life. She presented this as a generous gift, suggesting that learning to navigate upscale social situations could open doors for me that I had never imagined. The way Amanda spoke about me and my life was deeply condescending, even though she maintained a friendly and supportive tone throughout our conversation. She genuinely seemed to believe that she was offering me something valuable and that I should be grateful for her willingness to invest in my improvement. She could not understand why I might be offended by her suggestions or hurt by her assumptions about my worth as a person. When Marcus finished cooking and joined us on the balcony, I decided to tell him everything I had heard and everything Amanda had just offered to do for me. I wanted him to understand that this was not about wedding coordination or wanting everyone to look nice in photos. This was about Amanda being ashamed of his family and wanting to change us rather than accepting us as we were. Marcus listened to everything I said, but his reaction was not what I had hoped for. Instead of being angry at Amanda for her treatment of me, he seemed torn and conflicted. He said he could understand why Amanda wanted things to be perfect for their wedding day and why she might have strong opinions about how everyone should look and behave. He admitted that he had been thinking lately about ways he could improve himself and his lifestyle to match Amanda's expectations and social standards. The conversation that followed was one of the most painful of my life. Marcus explained that Amanda had helped him realize that there were aspects of our upbringing and background that might hold him back professionally and socially. He said she had opened his eyes to opportunities and possibilities he had never considered before meeting her. While he insisted that he still loved and valued our family, he also suggested that maybe some changes would not be such a bad thing. I tried to make Marcus understand that Amanda was asking him to be ashamed of who he was and where he came from. I pointed out that our family had always been proud of our resilience and strength in overcoming challenges, and that those qualities were more valuable than any superficial improvements Amanda could provide. However, Marcus seemed to have already made up his mind about the direction he wanted his life to take. When I told Marcus that I could not participate in Amanda's makeover plans and that I was uncomfortable with the entire clothing situation, he became frustrated with me. He said that I was being stubborn and unreasonable, especially since Amanda was offering to pay for everything and was trying to help me. He could not understand why I would not want to take advantage of opportunities to improve myself and my circumstances. The conversation ended with Marcus asking me to just go along with Amanda's plans for the wedding, describing it as a one-time request that would make his life much easier. He said that after the wedding, I could go back to dressing and behaving however I wanted, but that it would mean everything to him if I could just cooperate for this one special day. He made it sound like such a small request, but to me, it felt like he was asking me to betray my own values and self-respect. That night, I went home and spent hours thinking about everything that had happened. I realized that this situation was about much more than clothing choices or wedding day coordination. Amanda was asking me to pretend to be someone else because she was ashamed of who I really was. Even worse, Marcus was supporting her position and asking me to go along with it for his sake. I spent the next 3 days struggling with one of the most difficult decisions of my life. Every part of me wanted to be there for Marcus on his wedding day, but I could not accept the condition that I had to change who I was to be welcome at his celebration. The more I thought about Amanda's offer and Marcus's request, the more I realized that agreeing to their terms would be betraying everything I believed about self-respect and authenticity. On Thursday evening, I sat down at my kitchen table and wrote a letter to Marcus. I wanted to explain my decision in a way that made it clear this was not about anger or spite, but about maintaining my dignity and staying true to my values. The letter took me several attempts to get right because I wanted to express my love for him while also being clear about why I could not participate in Amanda's vision for their wedding day. In the letter, I told Marcus how much I loved him and how happy I was that he had found someone who made him feel complete. I explained that my decision to decline the wedding invitation was not about Amanda personally, but about the principle of being accepted for who I am rather than who someone else wants me to be. I wrote that I hoped he would understand that real love does not require people to change their fundamental identity to be considered worthy of inclusion. I also included the wedding gift I had bought for them, along with a note explaining that I wanted them to have something meaningful to commemorate their special day, even though I would not be there to give it to them in person. The handcrafted picture frame I had chosen represented my hope that their marriage would be filled with beautiful memories, even if those memories would not include me as I truly am. Sending that letter was one of the hardest things I had ever done. I knew it would hurt Marcus and possibly damage our relationship permanently, but I also knew that agreeing to Amanda's conditions would damage my relationship with myself in ways that might never heal. I had to choose between preserving my bond with my brother and preserving my self-respect, and ultimately, I realized that sacrificing my integrity would not lead to a healthy relationship anyway. Marcus called me the day after he received my letter, and our conversation was filled with pain on both sides. He was hurt that I was choosing what he saw as stubborn pride over supporting him on the most important day of his life. I was hurt that he could not understand why being accepted as myself was so important to me. We both said things that we probably regretted later, and the call ended with more distance between us than there had ever been before. In the weeks that followed, Marcus and I barely spoke. He was busy with final wedding preparations, and I was trying to process the grief of losing the relationship I had thought we would always have. Some of our mutual friends and family members tried to convince me to change my mind, arguing that it was just one day and that I should prioritize Marcus's happiness over my own discomfort. However, I knew that this was about much more than one day or one outfit. The wedding took place on a beautiful Saturday in June. I spent that day volunteering at a local community center working with kids who reminded me of myself and Marcus when we were younger. Being around young people who were facing challenges and staying strong in spite of them helped me remember why authenticity and self-respect are so important. These kids did not have much in terms of material possessions, but they had dignity and spirit that no amount of money could buy. Over the following months, I focused on rebuilding my life without the constant presence of my brother that I had always taken for granted. I threw myself into my work, strengthened friendships that I had been neglecting, and started pursuing hobbies and interests that brought me joy. Slowly, I began to realize that while losing my close relationship with Marcus was painful, I had gained something valuable by standing up for my principles. I also reconnected with my father, who had supported my decision from the beginning. He told me that he was proud of me for knowing my worth and not compromising my values even when it meant making a difficult sacrifice. Having his validation helped me feel more confident that I had made the right choice, even though it continued to hurt. 6 months after the wedding, Marcus called me out of the blue. His voice sounded different, tired and strained in a way that I had never heard before. He apologized for how everything had happened and admitted that married life was not quite what he had expected it to be. Amanda's desire to control and improve everything had not stopped with the wedding preparations. She was now focused on renovating his career, his friendships, and every aspect of his daily life. Marcus told me that he was beginning to understand what I had tried to tell him about the importance of being accepted for who you are rather than who someone wants you to be. However, he also admitted that he had made his choice and was trying to make the best of his marriage. Our conversation was cordial, but sad, filled with the recognition that our relationship had been fundamentally changed by the events leading up to his wedding. I forgave Marcus for the hurt he had caused me, but I also recognized that trust once broken takes time to rebuild. We began talking occasionally again, but our conversations remained surface level and careful. The easy intimacy we had once shared was gone, replaced by a more cautious connection that acknowledged the pain we had both experienced. The experience taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to refuse to enable their mistakes, even when that refusal causes pain for both of you. I learned that standing up for your values is not always rewarded in the short term, but it allows you to live with integrity and self-respect that no external validation can provide. Looking back, I am proud of the choice I made. While I wish the situation had never arisen and that Marcus had chosen to stand up for our family rather than asking us to change for his new one, I know that compromising my principles would not have led to a healthier outcome. Sometimes love means saying no, even when it breaks your heart. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the example of what it looks like to value yourself enough to walk away from situations that diminish your worth. Have you ever had to choose between maintaining a relationship and maintaining your self-respect? What would you have done in my situation? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear this message about the importance of staying true to yourself. And do not forget to subscribe for more stories about navigating difficult family situations and standing up for what you believe in. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you are worthy of love and acceptance exactly as you are. May you always have the courage to choose authenticity over approval, even when the cost feels unbearable.